this is again one of the things I think I've talked about before is the rat holes. How many, and it's a great, I have a job here is what's to collect history, preserve it, and help people. And then you get things like these rat holes that are so interesting you'll fall down them. And this whole family of hers, which she was a descendant of the Watlingtons, who owned originally the oldest house on Duval Street. And there were 7 daughters there. Her mother was one of the 7 daughters. And of course, when you get to looking at them, of course, they all got married and had different names, and the kids are different names, so you can spend just days sorting through the 7 daughters. So it's a huge rat hole, and we have spent a lot of time with, and probably will spend a lot more time with May. And of course, May was a school teacher, as you see, and so I had to go on that track too and find out school teachers, because May didn't seem to have any particular education, secondary, or postgraduate education. In fact, they didn't even have a high school graduation. The first Key West High School graduate was not until 1908. And in fact, somebody referenced that maybe she taught him in school, which was possible, but I think where he lived would have been different. But anyway, how you got to be a school teacher in 1890? Well, part of it probably tradition. Some of her aunts had a school in the oldest house when they were kids. And in fact, Mr. Hackley, who we talked about before, sent his daughters to school at the Watlington School in the oldest house. So anyway, and the other way you got was a school teacher. Supposedly you're a good student, and you got appointed. Politics, of course, had a lot to do with it. Well, having 7 aunts and uncles and families around gives you a lot of political power in a little town, because there's a lot of votes just in that one family. But anyway, some way or another, she got appointed a school teacher. As far as we can determine, the only education she had is through the school system. Now, they did have some training. The rules said that when you're hired, the principal was supposed to teach you. And they did have meetings. She regularly goes to school teacher meetings. And they had some training, and they had yearly exams, because she goes through the yearly exam that's sent out by the state and administered by the school superintendent on all different subjects. And so she has to take that test. And then the school superintendent also tested her students to see what level. Now, she taught, as best I can gather, 40, 50 students in her class of all different age groups. It wasn't a one-room school. There were several school teachers, but not a lot. Like maybe 3 or 4 at that school. The school she taught at was located where the division, the Harvey Government Center is now. That was built later, but there was a school on that location before the Harvey Government Center was built. So she taught at that school. And if you followed, she didn't do well, evidently, and she got docked $5. That's all she ever says is $5. But when I looked at it, it looked like about that time, the pay for a school teacher in Monroe County was about $40 a month for 8 months. So she probably got docked $5 a month for 8 months, which was a significant amount of money in that time. They might have made a little less. That $40 a month was $1,900. The earliest I could find was the pay list. So 3 years later. But So $5 was a significant reduction in pay. And she got damned mad at the superintendent during that time. And in fact, one of her entries was, the paper wrote an article about it. It was that significant about her losing her pay. But it was average. A working man and a good job at that time would have made about $2 a day, so $10 a week could support a family. So she was well off as a woman at that time, and almost I don't see any other than women teaching school at that time. And in fact, they had to be single women. If you got married, you got fired as a school teacher because you knew too much about sex, and they didn't want any sex education. So normally they would quit when they got married, but they had one teacher later on that refused to quit, and they had to fire her because she got married. So the whole world of education has changed a lot since 1897, and she didn't seem to spend a lot of concern about her students or the school. As you read the diary, she went to school, and she did read a little bit, so she did a couple times check out some books from the library, but I don't think she ever told us what books she was reading. So we were happy to see her visit the library, though.